Hey guys, Omni here. We're about to dive into another breakdown of the book of Boba Fett from our friends over at New Rockstars. Eric is going to be breaking down the Easter eggs and details we missed during the episode. If you're not subscribed to these guys, please do, because they put in a lot of hard work into bringing these breakdowns to us so fast after these episodes release and going into the amount of detail that they get to go into. I have no clue how they do these things this quickly, but I really enjoyed the last episode. If you haven't seen my reaction, go check it out. I think even the people that, from what I've been seeing, that were not too thrilled with episode 3 enjoyed that episode quite a bit. And I think it's the turning point of the season because it definitely is setting us towards this path for war. And it catches us up to date in his flashbacks. Sure, there's a time skip of sorts, but the last flashes of it are what we've already seen in The Mandalorian. So we're pretty much caught up now. So I have to imagine that unless we flash back to maybe earlier days, younger days or something like that, his healing process is over. So he doesn't have a reliance on the back to tank anymore. So I feel like that device has played itself out. So I do think we're going to be living in the present day for the remainder of the season. So we'll just kind of have to see how that goes. But that ending cue where they're going to war with the Pikes and they're talking about getting back up, and we hear the theme from The Mandalorian, I think we're going to get some Din Djarin in here, and I'm really excited if that is the case. But guys, let's go ahead and jump into this breakdown. Here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 4, The Gathering Storm, which promises to gather a storm that's probably going to include the Mandalorian Din Djarin, though will Mando join a guy who slaughters a biker gang after their crimes were just cast in doubt and forgets that he didn't leave his armor and is still alive Sarlacc? As always, this episode was filled with interesting Star Wars lore and details that you might have overlooked, so I'm going to break it all down for you. We open back in the Bacta. Boba's head and torso are now almost completely healed compared to previous sessions, and now there are fewer particles swirling around in that water, meaning the healing process is pretty much complete. We learned that these bubble baths were repeated healing sessions for the scars from the Sarlacc's digestive acid. However,
what about the scars on the inside?
It'll take longer.
yes, the true reason Boba takes these baths is to try to heal those inner wounds, to process the pain of the family that he lost, the qi'ra that he wanted that he will now have to recreate because one can only go so far without a tribe. We flash back to Boba riding his bantha, recovering from losing those Tusken friends. Now, in the 1977 Star Wars, the bantha was actually an Asian elephant named Margie, who, contrary to some popular belief, did not actually wear the bantha costume backwards and walk in reverse.
I did not know that they used elephants for this.
Was actually just covered by designing a bantha
Back
beard
then.
made of horse hair. But because we're nicer to elephants now, thank God, the bantha on this show is actually a full prop that's operated by 4 puppeteers and another 4 people on remote controls, which is why we can now see it chewing and licking its lips. Its tongue actually a separate piece of that puppet, as we saw with the multiple puppeteers who operated Jabba the Hutt. They ride past a skeleton of another bantha. We actually saw another bantha skeleton on the way to Mos Pelgo in The Mandalorian Chapter 9, and both of these evoke that skeleton of the lesser crate dragon that 3PO and R2 passed in A New Hope, setting up Boba in this episode to leave nothing rotting in the sun of Tatooine. Boba creeps up on the backside of Jabba's palace, which is now an opening in the rock wall. We haven't seen this yet. We've only seen the front side, whereas this back gate lowers into the ground as opposed to raising up, because this is the shuttle bay where Boba's gunship is. He later tells Fennec,
Help me recover my fire spray gunship.
now, yes, Lucasfilm is reportedly renaming the Slave One, but to clear this up, its new name is not Fire Spray. Fire Spray is the class of ship. It's a Fire Spray 31 class patrol and attack craft. We still don't know what its name is. They may.
Now, the reports are the renaming is such a gray area right now because there's a lot of reports about them actually changing the name. The only thing we know for certain is that the merchandise for kids, and that's going out there for purchase, is not going to have the name on it, Slave One on it. It's just Boba Fett's ship. And for the casual parent, for the casual buyer, for the casual fan, that's all they even know the ship as, Boba Fett's ship. It's really the hardcores and the sweaties like us that know it's actually called the Slave One. So I get the marketing side of it, but there's nothing as of yet to say that they're renaming it in the canon. Now, he's talking to Fennec in this moment. If he said, I need your help to get the Slave One, is she going to know what he means? Maybe. The Slave One is a known ship throughout the galaxy, but it makes way more sense for her to be, for him to tell her, you know, I need your help getting my fire spray back. Because that's like being like, hey, I need help getting my Nissan back. But if I name my Nissan Greg, I wouldn't be like, hey, I need your help getting Greg back. She'd be like, the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, we'll wait and see. I would be very disappointed in them if they do, in fact, in canon, take away the name. Now, the name itself is relevant to Jango and his story. So if they did, if there's a reason Boba Fett renames it to something that's more in tune to him and his person and his journey, maybe they can justify it. But I still like the story behind the why of it, why it's named Slave One, because it's a very powerful story talking about Jango's past and origins and stuff like that. So I wouldn't like, I don't know. Unless they come up with a good reason to have Boba Fett take ownership over it completely and fully, without needing to honor his father, I'd like to keep that intact if possible, but we'll see.
They just call it the
I'm
fire
just not going to
spray
jump
because
on the
it's
hate
the type of
train
ship it is,
until
but it's not like he named
something
it fire spray like Forrest named his ship Gen A.
like
so I love
concrete
this shot where we
happens.
cross dissolve from Tatooine's 2 suns to its 3 moons. These are named Gumrasin, Guermesa, and Chanini. We see these 3 because on this night, Bobas Tribe grows from 2, him and his trusty bantha, to 3 with Fennec Shand. After sharing his roasted scurrier with that bantha, Boba spots these lights over the ridge.
Yep.
Aha, that was Ludwig Göransson's flute theme from The Mandalorian, and these lights we see are the flash charges that Din Djarin and Toro Calican detonated to blind Fennec Shand in The Mandalorian Chapter 5, when Toro cruelly shot Fennec and left her for dead. Here, they actually reused that shot from Chapter 5, where Boba Fett stepped up to her, but the sound mixing has changed. See, before they hinted this was Boba Fett with the beeps of his armor and the spur sounds on each of his steps. But now, since Boba doesn't have his armor on, they removed those beeps and really just hinted at the spurs on only one of his steps. Even though it made no sense that Boba Fett had spurs before because he wasn't riding anything. And now it makes total sense for him to have spurs because he's riding a pack animal. Oh well. He takes her to a mod parlor near Mos Eisley where those mod youths led by Drash must have gotten their cybernetic upgrades. And we learn they are called mods, just like the 60s gang in the UK was called, but also an abbreviation of their modified status. Clever. Now the arch over the door is marked with some Orabesh letters. I see M-E-R-A followed by P-L-A. The inner arch is actually graffiti drawing of a crate dragon skeleton. Now the graffiti to the right are the letters U-M-W-E-L-T, which I think just could mean, well, thank Ferric, I'm wasting my time doing this. But actually, as he comes in through the doorway on the right, in red, the graffiti translates to, I think, mod bod. At least this makes sense because people in this clinic are getting modified bodies. Now inside his clinic, there are some glowing lung implants on the right, and on the back wall is a torso of a protocol droid. Actually, the concept art for this location that plays during the credits shows an Imperial probe droid hanging over the operating chair and a dismantled golden protocol droid head on the wall. Now, the mod artist is played by Steven Thundercat Bruner from Suicidal Tendencies. The music we hear playing in this parlor is one of his baseline riffs, and he has this clampy right hand. This is actually taken from a super battle droid. This surgeon completes the new steampunky guts that we saw in
I didn't
Mandalorian
realize
Chapter
that was a battle
14.
droid
He
hand.
explains he leaves it exposed as some kind of mod pride.
Aren't you gonna close her up?
Cover all that beautiful machinery.
Just an interesting statement considering people like Luke Skywalker at first covered up his mod prosthetic, but when we return to him in The Last Jedi, he left that machinery exposed, which I have always felt could have been a realization he later came to years after he saw his father hid his cybernetic implants, thinking he had to mask his weaknesses. Boba cracks open a black melon for Fennec, releasing a tiny little
didn't think about
spray
any
of
of that.
mist in that dry desert air. We've actually seen these throughout the series. They originated in a 2015 comic storyline in which Obi-Wan Kenobi found them bitter, but their milk safe to drink because the Tuskens would drink from them. Boba says,
It takes some getting used to. The time you start to crave it.
God, ain't that true for everything? I think Boba's referring to his Tusken friends. They took some getting used to, but now he craves their company. Boba explains,
I was rescued by the Sand People. I tried to help them. Instead, I got them massacred by Nikto speed bikers.
Speed bikers defeated Tuskens? That's highly unlikely.
it's interesting how Boba refers to them as sand people here, and it's Fennec who uses the term Tuskens, but I just think Boba has been alone with them, communicating via hand signals, and now he's talking to a bounty hunter that he assumes would use their slur, but she surprises and corrects him, passing his little test. And yeah, Fennec casts doubt on the Kenton Striders truly being the ones who killed the Tuskens, showing that she respects the Tuskens' combat skills. But despite this, later in the episode, Boba straight up vengefully slaughters those Niktos anyway, and Fennec does not object. Still, I think Fennec's line here suggests someone might have set up those Niktos, someone like the Pikes or the Hutts, someone those criminal overlords are associated with. And yeah, I love how this whole conversation takes place as Boba leans against the belly of that snoring bantha, meaning those puppeteers had to push and retract this fur against Tamara Morrison throughout the take. If you think about it, this bantha was the last heartbeat that Boba still has from his Tusken tribe, and that tribe lives on through him in this scene. Fennec uses this drone that looks like a more compact version of the probe droid that the Empire used to track the rebels on Hoth on Empire. The Aurebesh on its screen first translates to Ghost before switching to several alternate letters. Ghost may be Fennec's nickname for this, and now it's disguising its chain code to make it harder to scan and trace back to her. As it zips in through the gate, in the foreground on the right, we see the counterweight lowering to raise the gate, showing how Fennec later triggers that gate back open. Boba says,
And I'm gonna kill that bloated pig who double-crossed me.
Bib Fortuna, as far as we know, never directly betrayed Boba Fett, unless maybe Boba blames Bib for entangling Boba in that sail barge disaster, but Fennec is skeptical.
You want to hit a Gatra.
Yes, Gatra is a Sanskrit term from Hindu culture referring to lineage or a dynasty. In The Mandalorian Chapter 9, Gor Koresh swore by the Gatra that there was Mandalorian on Tatooine, and there was a droid Gatra in Star Wars literature referring to a group of droids who supported droid rights. So what would Boba's Gatra be? What is the House of Fett? Well, Boba belongs to a few lineages. Genealogically, as a clone, he is connected to all other Jango clones on Kamino, including Omega from Bad Batch. But Jango singled out Boba as this one clone to bring up as a son, later giving him his armor and allowing Boba to inherit his Mandalorian chain code and ancestry. But also Boba now has his found families of the Tuskens and the disaffected criminals and bounty hunters of Tatooine. It'd be interesting to see him forming a Gatra of all of these links that he has. And the probe droid returns and maps out the palace interior. I love how we only see the line of sight that the droid was able to scan. So just the front surface of the gunship, the rest is left incomplete because it was never scanned. Just cool production design detail there. I love this. As Fennec cuts the bars, listen closely. Yeah, that squeaky singe is the same sound effect from when Anakin seared off Dooku's head in Revenge of the Sith. And Fennec will use this weapon the same way on the chef. In that kitchen, that chef is a COO cook droid, first seen in Attack of the Clones on that liner that Anakin and Padme took to Naboo. Meanwhile, the sous chef is an EV series supervisor droid, but probably not EV-929 from Return of the Jedi, since he was confirmed to be working in Chalmun's cantina in The Mandalorian around the same time. This guy bonks a one-eyed frog.
Hey, he could have multiple jobs.
I love how the chef
as a
droid
side
spins
gig.
his knives just like General Grievous does with lightsabers while fighting.
That's exactly what I thought
of.
about.
Now, the Ratcatcher is an LEP series servant droid, which originally dated back to concept art for Phantom Menace and later appeared throughout Clone Wars.
Yeah.
This little guy has antenna-like cat ears that perk up as he listens. And then he literally says, huh? His mouth drops open in fear. Boba swipes at that Ratcatcher, knocking over the boiling pot so those frogs can escape. And after crawling over that grill, you can hear that droid chuckling in victory. But then after Boba captures him, this droid sobs in shame and shuts himself down.
It's kind of fucking morbid when you think about it.
Now, in that shuttle bay, we see a four-legged Gonk droid lumbering past. Fennec later shoots this guy to blow him up. This wave of guards are Weequays, and one of them screams at Fennec. Yes, Sleemo, the Huttese slur that we heard back in episode 1. And from Anakin's potty mouth, Phantom Menace.
You scrawny dough pot, Sleemo.
Now, in the gunship cockpit, the controls are all in the Mandoa language, and in the upper corner, that symbol is Mandoa for the letter O, maybe for the bay door being open. Boba knocks the gunship into a parked skiff. This either is the same exact skiff or the same kind of skiff that Luke and the others escaped on in Return of the Jedi. After Fennec shoots the gate mechanism, I love how the loading doors just close on her self-assured close-up, like that Lucasfilm shutter wipe transition on her when she first pitched this plan earlier. So they catch up to that Nikto biker gang. As we saw before, their vests have their skeleton sigil and the word Tatooine on the back, but the number 2 of this group has the name of SLF written in Orbesh on his shoulder. And I love how Boba's ship begins as just an unnoticeable dot in the sky until it just moves larger and larger into view and wrecks all of them. He even reserves a missile to take out the leaders just to be sure. And then he returns to the Sarlacc pit.
That's where I was trapped all those years ago.
First off, it's easy to lose track of this show's timeline since it jumps between 2 periods, but this moment is set during the events of The Mandalorian Season 1, which is around 9 ABY, 5 years after Return of the Jedi, which would mean that Boba actually spent 5 years with the Tuskens. Now, Boba assumes his Beskar armor is still inside the Sarlacc, even though he seemed at least semi-conscious when the Jawas took it from him outside the Sarlacc. But one way you could see this
probably
is maybe
pretty
that
delirious.
stomach acid was just so painfully burning, scalding his skin that it felt like his armor was completely off him the moment he passed out in the daze. Either way, you can forgive him for getting confused here. I'll also say that it is surprising, to say the least, to see the Sarlacc still alive, considering it totally seemed like Boba was burning and clawing his way out of its stomach lining. We did see one of the Sarlacc tentacles lay lifeless on the sand, but that probably really was the one that Han shot to free Lando. It just seems like Boba probably just went up through the Sarlacc's mouth, and Sarlacc's more resilient than we thought. Maybe this one's got his own big back to tank that he spends all day taking blast in, thinking about his tragic past. We all shut ourselves
Man,
when
Sarlacc
beak
pits.
lunges
I
at
like to
them.
look at
Then
the
it frees
fucking
herself and releases
biology.
a seismic
Looked at the fucking biology of this thing. Is like that little like clippet that he just showed. Like, oh my god, man, they're just fucking disgusting.
charge.
And the best sound in all of Star Wars.
Fire in the hole.
Just like
I
the ones
love
that
it.
Jango Fett released on Obi-Wan and the Asteroid Belt in Attack of the Clones. It even has that same delay sound effect. Now, Fennec says the Major Domo is giving them intel.
Oh, he's singing like a Yuzum.
Yes, Yuzums are the species of Joe Yowza, the singer added to the Max Rebo band in Return of the Jedi 1997 Special Edition. Back at Garsa Whip's sanctuary, Black Chrysanthid glares at some gambling Trandoshans. Why is he so mad? Well, remember, Trandoshans do have a history of hunting Wookiees. Their leader, Doc Strassi,
Yeah, I completely
presented a
forgot about
Wookiee
that in
pelt
the
as tribute
reaction.
to Boba in Episode 1. By the way, BK is played by Carrie Jones, a longtime costumer on major titles. I love his physicality in this role. Here,
So
as the
good.
rage builds, the camera does a dolly zoom, which is a camera move from Alfred Hitchcock, showing raw tension building in a character. Garsa Whip tries to calm everyone down, recalling BK's time as a gladiator in the fighting pits, and she says,
In this more civilized place, in these more civilized times.
almost evoking the way Obi-Wan described the Galactic Civil War era as an uncivilized period, by saying the time before was more civilized.
An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
But BK ain't interested, even after getting offered to clear his bar tab, so he rips off the Trandoshan's arm, recalling exactly what Han Solo warned 3PO a Wookiee would do.
It's because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
And then I like how Max Rebo starts playing right after.
I always
just
love
like
that
the Mos
little,
Eisley
like,
Cantina band did right
hand
after an
movement.
amputation occurred there. Boba offers BK a job, and BK accepts because these two did used to work together back as bounty hunters, both working under Darth Vader. And so back at the palace, they gather the other bosses, like the 5 families of the Godfather, including that Klatooinian boss played by Phil Lamar, coming back after voicing the Pike leader last episode. Now, I like how the initial scene geography shows the throne empty. On the surface, to signal to the bosses that Boba is not above them, he's seated alongside them at the table. But this also means that this table is situated above the Rancor pit. The LAP droid returned, so thank God this little cutie didn't permanently off himself. But also, what was he doing here? Were there rats scurrying around this dinner table? Back to work. Boba proposes that if the bosses won't help him fight off the Pikes, that they at least remain neutral in the conflict. They appear to agree, but we will see. And Fennec says,
Credits can buy muscle. If you know where to look.
Ah, yes, the music there is once again the flute theme music of the Mandalorian Din Djarin, suggesting Fennec will turn to him as the hired muscle, and Pedro Pascal may join the series. Now, we should note that Din Djarin is not himself a full army, but he does wield the Darksaber, a point of contention with Bo-Katan, who wanted the Darksaber herself to unite the scattered Mandalorian clans in order to take back Mandalore. If you think about it, an alliance with Boba Fett, combining the strength of the Mandalorian warriors to free Tatooine from the Pikes, could really be the first step toward that ultimate goal of retaking the throne of Mandalore, which they could then cash in the favor from Boba Fett using the help of his combined resources, as this miniseries points us to The Mandalorian Season 3. It's just not clear yet if it'll ultimately be just the Pikes that they face, or a more fearsome enemy that the Pikes answer to. Because
Crimson
one
Dawn,
final detail
Shadow
is the
Collective.
music that comes at the end of Joseph Shirley's Book of Boba Fett theme song. Yeah, that music definitely parallels John Powell's theme for the Crimson Dawn that we heard in Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Yeah.
And since Maul
Yeah.
died shortly before the events of A New Hope, qi'ra is now running the Crimson Dawn, and with her Maul-taught lightsaber skills of Teräs Käsi, she would be a fearsome opponent for whatever Darksaber wielder that she would face. You can support New Rockstars by checking out our merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com.
Great
Follow
breakdown,
me on Instagram and
Eric.
Twitter at
Guys, I really think it's building up something crazy. I mean, if Din Djarin comes into the next episode, is he going to be in the last 4 episodes? 3 episodes. There's only 3 episodes left. Sorry. I could buy that. I could buy that. I do think it's helping us build an army towards the eventual, not like an army, but giving us like a crew, a resource, people to reach out to. I think it's building. I think the universe right now is building towards a conflict with Thrawn. That's what I think is going to happen with the reclamation of Mandalore being the end goal of, because remember they said when they were announcing all these other Mandalorian spinoffs that the goal was for them to all collide in a huge crossover event. And I think that's what's going to happen from Ahsoka to The Mandalorian to Book of Boba Fett. And, you know, there was going to be the Rangers of the New Republic, but there's rumors that we might be getting a Bo-Katan spinoff as well. But I feel like they'll all converge, like they had said, to that. And I think this is the Boba building his part of that on his own to be called upon one way or another. Maybe, maybe not. Could be wrong, but we'll just have to wait and see. I really like what they're setting up so far in it regardless, even if it just stays its own little pocket, just knowing it's out there. I like it. I like following and seeing what Boba's up to. But guys, what'd you think of the episode? What'd you think of the breakdown? Sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Feel free to join our Discord. We can talk about it there as well. Links to that and all my socials are in the description. And before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends, Manny Sherritt, Ryan Karen, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, York, Curtis God, Margaret Grace, Mary Bradley, Jeffrey Hale, Nate Prouty, and Emo Slytherin. Thank you guys so much for your support. That's it for now, and I'll see you guys next week with the next episode of Book of Boba Fett. May the Force be with you always. Take care, everybody.